John Long once quoted, "They say it takes a fool to conquer the impossible, but maybe he's the only one who tries." I don't know about you, but I feel that just by being able to stand up here today, I have conquered the impossible. I have conquered my past, come to terms with who I am today, and feel a great sense of excitement over my future. And this is all because of you. I have been at Mooseheart for about 3 years, and I have lived in both Minnesota home and most recently an Illinois home. I arrived in my sophomore year when I was just turning 16, which puts me as one of the newer kids in my class. When I first came, I remembered how terrified I was of talking in front of people because everyone made fun of my southern drawl. I've kind of lost that now. As with all Mooseheart children and teens, I've had some pretty unique and misfortunate circumstances that have brought me to the Child City. When I was little, I lived with my mother, who is not only clinically bipolar, but also schizophrenic. My earliest memory of her is having a crowd of people jammed into our little trailer, abusing alcohol and drugs. Her decision to use marijuana, heroin, and methamphetamines and to allow it to become #1 priority in her life left me to be pushed aside to defend for myself as no little girl should ever have to. In my short lifetime, I have witnessed things that would make most people cringe, but strange as it sounds, I did not recognize at the time that anything was wrong with my life because it was all that I knew. I went to school when I felt like it. I ate whenever I could find food, and I looked forward to the 15th of every month because that was when my mother received her food stamps, and I knew even then that she couldn't waste that on drugs also. But by the 5th grade, when I arrived at school in the same outfit that I had worn for 3 days in a row and hadn't eaten a solid meal in about a week, I finally broke. I lost that nerve, that mature outer shield that made teachers think twice about how they acted towards me. I walked into the nurse's office, I sat down, and I just cried. I told her everything about my mother and my life at home. I explained to her as much as I could before I made myself maintain that cool composure once again. After I was fed, social services was called, and I was sent to a distant relative in Georgia. I was only there for about 8 months when my mother, who was not legally allowed to have custody of me, came and got me from there. Apparently, the relative had signed guardianship back over to her because they didn't want me anymore. Of course, I still thought my mom was a good person. I just thought that she had made some pretty horrific decisions to ruin her life. So we traveled back to Arkansas and lived with my mother's husband for a while. One day, I came home from school and I found all of my mother's possessions gone, and I knew she had left again. Although I could depend on my mother, I thought I could depend on my mother. As a child, should be able to, but I was dead wrong. At the age of 14, she told me she didn't want me living with her anymore. Even though I did all that I could, I ended up moving in with a friend, staying as long as possible, then moving on to another friend. Later, I moved into an apartment with a 19-year-old girl who I shared the bills with. At this time, I was working full-time at a restaurant as well as going to high school. Every day, I was pressured to do things that only brought misery and unhappiness into my life. Hope of going to college was a far-off dream that I knew would never be a reality, since paying for rent and food was at the top of the list and not my schoolwork. One night, I was invited to have dinner with a really good friend of mine, and it was through her family that I learned about the Moose and Mooseheart. Her mother was a member, but she did not know all the details about the school, just the idea of it. She talked to some Moose members, and she explained that it was a school for kids in need, kids like me. I was very hesitant to talk to anyone. I didn't know anything about this place. I just knew it was so far away, and I didn't know if they would just send me off to some group home somewhere. But I decided if I was ever going to amount to anything, I would have to get a high school diploma and go to college. It was my hope that Mooseheart would give me that chance. After meeting the administrator of my sponsoring lodge and listening to him talk about how good my life could be, I was hooked. I wanted this place. I needed this place. Could this faraway campus called Mooseheart really be a piece of the solution for my life? I started the application process at the beginning of the summer, but I did not find out I was accepted until about June. I was so pumped and excited to go. I moved out of my friend's house and stayed with a chapter member until it was time to drive north. Imagine a 14-hour drive to a new place, knowing you wouldn't be coming home for a long time. Believe me, the excitement was still there, but I was absolutely petrified. When I arrived at my new home, I would never have dreamed that the 8 other girls sitting at the dining room table, waiting to welcome me, were about to become the closest friends and sisters I could ever imagine. Entering Mooseheart during my sophomore year, I had some trouble adjusting. I had had so much freedom before I came and wasn't used to people telling me when to do my homework, when to go to bed, and what to eat for dinner. Although it was hard, I loved the fact that someone was just there. During my junior year, I worked even harder and focused more on my schoolwork, but senior year was by far my best. I became extremely active within the community and in the school. I became yearbook editor, a National Honor Society member, a member of Teens Accepting Christ, a student tutor, and the Student Activities Council president. I was also a part of the Yellowstone Youth Conservation Corps in Yellowstone National Park this past summer. I finished up my health occupational vocational coursework and completed my clinical rounds at Dolanor Community Hospital in Geneva, Illinois. Earlier this month, I had the privilege of being involved in the Youth Awareness Program. I traveled to Hampton, Virginia, and spent 4 days there convening with 50 other students who were also in the program. My Kid Talk centered on bicycle safety, and I was able to teach children at Mooseheart and in the local area about this important subject. Mooseheart opened so many doors for me and helped me realize my true potential. Instead of being one of the newbies, I had become one of those girls sitting at the dining room table, welcoming new students at Mooseheart. 50 years from now, I'll look back fondly on my first day and say that's what Mooseheart is all about. This year, we will all focus on being a piece of the solution. I want you to know that each and every one of you, with every gift you send to Mooseheart and Moose Haven, with every meeting you have at your lodge and chapter, with every card you send to your sponsored or sunshine child, with every visit you make to Mooseheart to let children know that you care, you are a piece of the solution. You are bringing a sense of family to kids who have never had that before. You are giving a birthday gift to kids who grew up expecting little or anything at all. And you are making a difference in young people's lives. There are three very important people that I would like to recognize as a piece of the solution in my life. If I could have you stand up when I say your name. As Administrator of Saline County Lodge 2567 and past Deputy Supreme Governor for the men of the Arkansas Moose Association, I would like to recognize Wendell Dawson along with his wife Carolyn, who is past Deputy Grand Regent for the women. These two people, who I now refer to as Nan and Papa, welcomed me into their family when I had none. I've spent the past 3 Christmases with them, having dinner and sharing gifts. They bring a sense of happiness into my life as no others can. I would also like to recognize Vicki Ballard, who happens to be Wendell and Carolyn's daughter. Vicki, or Mom, was a stranger to me when I stayed at her home that first time, right before Mooseheart. But now she is so much more than that. She's the mother I never had. She takes care of me when I am home, sends me stuff just because, and calls me on a daily basis. This chapter member has risen above and beyond her call of duty as a Moose member and treated me as if I was her own daughter. I just want to let everyone know that they were a piece of the solution for me. This fall, I will be attending Aurora University, where I will be in the honors program, and hope to transfer down to Southern Illinois University at Carbondale in a few years to complete my bachelor's in radiology. After college, I will be joining the National Guard or the Air Force. I have decided that I want to help people, and healthcare, as well as the military, turns out to be a good choice for me. I will be receiving a generous $24,000 scholarship from the Arkansas Moose Association. I am forever grateful for you, my Moose family, my Mooseheart home, and the opportunity I now have to go to a college of my choice. I am thrilled to be pursuing my dream. I want to thank each and every one of you here today, and even those who couldn't make it, for believing in me, for providing me with a home, and giving me a future to be proud of. Without you as a piece of the solution in my life, I would be lost, without hope or anyone to guide me. You have changed my life. Thank you.